What's the dumbest thing a guest has asked you while working at Disney World?
I never worked at Disney World, but I did work at a fun center. You know, those places with mini golf and like go-karts and stuff? Yeah, I worked on one of those, and one thing that they told me is that when people visit there, they go on vacation mode. And I didn't know what it was, but it's a true thing. I don't know if it's scientifically, but basically when people go to like a fun center or Disney World or whatever, they go into this vacation mode where they drop every worry ever. And along it apparently goes common sense, because my golly, some people, bro. Like, it really made me realize like how low of an IQ some of the population has. But like, so I worked go-karts, and I would have the dumbest questions all the time. I'd have grown adults forget how to put a seatbelt on, and I would have to buckle their seatbelt for them. I had people ask me, what was the go pedal? When we tell them, it's the green one, it's the one on the right. Like, what?
Not many people know this about me, but freshman year of college, I was at the Disney College program, and I was at Space Mountain. On this particular day, this woman, very large woman, decides she's going to ride Space Mountain with her family. Well, we have a weight limit, and that limit is 300 pounds. Of course, we can't have them get on a scale, but we can ask them, are you sure you fit within the weight limit? This woman was very indignant on that day. I told her. She said, of course. She gets on the ride. The rail comes click, 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 clicks down. Everything was fine. She rides the ride, and it's time to get out. You know, like a can of biscuits, everything is fine when it's closed, but the second you pop it, everything spills out, and it's never possible to put back in. This is what happens with her. The train cart stops at the exit. The lap bar comes up, click, 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 does not able to come all the way up. She's unable to pull herself out. We have to call the police and the fire department. They come out there in front of this massive line of people, of course, and jaws of life her ass out. And she asked us with a straight face, why?
I have been waiting for this one. I worked for Disney World as a CP in Bell Services, so at one of the resorts, and I once had a guest come up to me who had been checked in for hours at that point, and they still hadn't received their luggage to the room, and they were using Disney's Magical Express service. We were trying to track down their luggage, and we couldn't find it anywhere in our system, so we finally asked the guest where they left their luggage. They told us that they left it on their front porch of their home because they thought the service was magical and that they would come pick it up and take it to their room, as if there's a magical bus that goes around all over the world and just picks up people's luggage and sends it to Disney World because they're just supposed to know, I guess. That's a 100% true story.
So I was a cast member for 5.5 years. I got let go because of COVID, but I have a lot of stories, but this one is my favorite. So one day when I was working in Magic Kingdom in Fantasyland, I was a merchandise cast member, and I had a guest come up during a rainstorm. We had a huge line full of people wanting to buy ponchos, and this particular guest came up to me and said, I know you do this on purpose. And I was like, I'm sorry, ma'am. And she said, I know you do this on purpose. I was like, I'm sorry, can you be a little bit clearer? I'm a little confused. And she said, I know Disney makes it rain so they can sell ponchos. I'm not kidding. She legitimately said that. And I was just like, oh, okay, sure.
I was 17 when I was working at Disneyland as a Jungle Cruise skipper, and it was pouring, and I was outside the park gates in costume. So somebody comes up to me and asks if it was raining inside Disneyland.
Okay, before I get started, I just want to say I no longer work for the company. I don't speak for the brand, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to try to make this quick. So at my time at Disney, I was a performer, and although I personally didn't have any personal experiences with guests, the characters that I were friends with did. I cannot even begin to tell you how many times a guest has come up to me in character and asked me to hold their baby, their like newborn, precious, fragile baby. And in case you didn't know, characters can't do that at Disney. Even if you see them do it, they're not supposed to. Sometimes they wouldn't even ask, they would just toss their baby into your arms. Emphasis on baby. Like, I'd be facing over here signing an autograph book, and then all of a sudden I see a baby flying at the right side of my head. I have to catch it like a football. Oh, here's another good one. There'd be times in parades where guests want to get, like, pretty personal with you, right? So we're dancing, going down Main Street, USA, and then all of a sudden a small child's getting thrown at my shins, and a parent's begging me to take a picture with them.
No.
Well, I didn't work for the Disney because there is no Disney out in Colorado. However, I did work for the aquarium back in the day. But, yeah, so I was working the cash wrap in the gift shop one day, and this Karen and her son was checking out. He was like probably 6 or 7 years old. And across from the gift shop is an aquarium wrapped restaurant / bar. Well, one of the nerve sharks in that tank decided that it didn't want to wait for its feeding, so it ate a fish that was in there, which happens. But the Karen turns to me and was like, I don't think that's appropriate for kids to watch. Is there something you can do about that? What? Bitch, you want to go up in there and tell the shark that he can't eat when he want to eat? It's the circle of life. Like,
So I don't work for Disney. I work at the other park. And this story is my all-time favorite. I was standing at my venue, and this dude comes up to me and goes, "Where's the castle?" And I was like, "Oh, Hogwarts. Yeah, it's going to be like down that way." And he was like, No. The castle." And I was like, "Oh, are you looking for Cinderella's castle?" And he was like, "Yes, where is that?" And I was like, "So that's in Disney. It's like 30 minutes down I-4. And he was like, "No. My map showed me that it would be here." And I was like, "Okay, well, can you pull out your map for me so I can look at it? Go ahead and get you pointed in the right direction." So he's digging through his bag. He pulls out a map and he opens it up and shows it to me. And I wish I was joking. When I looked down at the map, it was from SeaWorld. It's my time!
Okay, so I worked at Disney World twice as a CP in both attractions and in food service. So I have aplenty. This is one of my favorites, so I'll just act it out for you. Hello, princesses and princes. Thank you so much for the wait. The ride's getting ready to start, so we'll be seating in just a moment. Just, ma'am, before you start seating us, I have a question. Yes, of course, ma'am. How can I help you? When is the rain going to stop? Well, it's a little hard to predict because it is Florida, so it could be anywhere from 5 minutes to a couple hours. No, I mean, like, when are you guys going to turn it off? Turn what off? The rain, turning off the rain, because we don't really like getting wet. Turn off the rain? Yeah, like you do for the shows and the rides. Like, when is the rain? When are you going to turn that off? We don't?
So, aside from my all-time favorite, which is how do I get to Disney World when you're standing in Animal Kingdom at It's Tough to Be a Bug in the middle of Disney World, my favorite, it's not actually mine, it is one of my old managers. He was working at Splash Mountain at the time, and he had gone back to guest relations to do like his recap stuff. And he got a guest family who literally were there to complain because they got wet on Splash Mountain. They wanted their money refunded for the park ticket because they got wet on a water ride. It's my favorite to this day.
Hello, I worked for Disney for 5 years until COVID hit, and I was concierge for all 5 years and front desk. So I have actually already seen a video where someone explained that they got told that the guests left their luggage on the front porch and expected Magical Express to pick it up from there. Yep, I've gotten one of those too, except my guest was from Japan, so that was worse. The other one was I had handed the Magical Express papers to a guest, and she was like, "Okay, how is this going to get me to my connecting flight?" Like, where's the bus for that? Do I need another paper for my connecting flight? No, ma'am. I'm pretty sure you're already in the airport that you need to be, and Disney is not going to go to Dallas, Texas to shuttle you to the next airplane.
Okay, so I used to work for Disney Cruise Line, and this is not my story, it's a coworker story, but I was there for the whole thing. We had a guest call from their stateroom saying that the room they were in was not the room they had booked. So they called over to Shoreside and asked to verify the reservation was the type of room they had booked, because we didn't have control of the system yet because we were still at dock. And everything matched up in the system. So my coworker asked the guests, more specifics. Is there not enough sleeping space? Because there are beds that come out of the walls and ceilings and cruise ships. And sometimes guests assume that there's not enough bedding. Or if they can't find the toilet or the bathtub because they're in two separate little rooms. And sometimes they just don't open the second door. And the guest said, no, none of that. And so we said, well, ma'am, what's the problem with your room then? And she said, I booked an Ocean View Family Deluxe stateroom and I have a view of the parking lot. We hadn't left shore yet. We were still anchored.